Uh, so Josh, just as we're getting started here, you and I were talking just a minute ago, and you know what? Every single hurricane season is different, and we're seeing something different this year, just like every year.
It's so true, and it always kind of throws us for a loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What was funny about our conversation was basically mixed signals. We were talking about
Yeah.
how we're getting very mixed signals about whether things are going to start to pick up in the Atlantic. I felt like that was the theme, is sort of like, not sure.
Yeah, but at the same time, it could pick up and just go boom, boom, boom. Storm, storm, storm. Eventually, but again, we're all kind of in that weird. It's like you're going to go on a date and you're waiting for your date to come pick you up, and you're like, are they coming or are they going to stand me up? You're kind of at that moment where you're not really sure what's going to happen.
That's such a great analogy. Or I think of it as like you're throwing a party and you tell everyone, okay, be there at 8, and it's 7:45, and you're like, all right, no one's going to come.
Nobody's here yet.
And it's kind of like that
Huh?
too. And we are sort of at this 7:45 p.m. in terms of, in terms of hurricane season, because we are right before things typically pick up.
Yeah, and that's normal. So it's normal for it not to be, that active, at least at this point.
Yeah, early in the season, a lot of times I feel like since I've been on air for the last, handful of years, whatever it is, that we always start the hurricane season slow, and there's always a lot of chatter of, all right, well, where's the hurricane season? Where are we going with this? Why is it so slow? And that's what we'll try to talk about today a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, we absolutely have to. We're going to talk about why things have been the way that they are, and it's certainly a lot easier to look back and say why we haven't seen anything, as opposed to looking forward to saying
hindsight's
what,
2020.
Yeah, what we're going to see. We're kind of in that weird spot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all ends up shaking out, because now we're starting to see signs of the MDR getting a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
It looks like it jumped up a lot over the last week or two. We'll see how that has to play a role. A lot of dust out there. That's going to play a role too.
That is the one caveat that you can never really count on, is the dust, because we've seen it before where we were about to have a very active part of the season, then it just shuts down for a couple of weeks. So we're kind of at that moment. I think we're about, a minute and a half, a minute and 45 seconds away.
Oh, yeah.
So Josh, do you have anything you want to say to our online friends, at least as we start this morning?
Ask any questions you want. Don't be shy. Promise to answer them as long as they're not too weird.
We promise.
That's what I'm here for,
we-
is
we
to filter out
promise-
the weird.
Yeah, the weird, and we also we will
Maybe.
be as honest as we can.
Yeah.
Bonus-
No, I can be daring and invite anything, because I know that the guys in the control room they'll just filter out anything that's unsavory.
They do have the
We'll
escape
see.
button, but it's a little known fact, there is an escape button that they've only had to use once or twice with me on the air. Just gonna leave it at that. But
the
of course,
old dump button.
but we're online right now, so you can do anything online.
I think.
But just so everybody knows, so we're going to
won't
be going live on TV here in 53 seconds. And if you want to watch us on TV, of course, you can just click on the QR code that we're seeing here. You can see that. And as soon as we get on television, we're going to tell our TV friends that they can join us online. Because the great thing about online is that you can interact with us.
We're going to be here for an entire hour, or for the better part of an hour, I guess. All of those different little tabs, the Vizio, the Tubi, that's how you can watch us on TV, kind of like traditionally. You scan that QR code, it's going to take you to all of our social media platforms, X, Facebook, YouTube. That's where you can interact with us. So send us those questions. Try to keep them PG. Bonus points for memes.
Okay, here we go, guys. We're about 5 seconds out, so we're going to be quiet for just a moment, and then we're going to be live on the air. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Hurricane Hub. I'm Dr. Jim Siebert. Kevin Schneider here is running the board for us, and we're also being joined here in a second with Josh Morgerman, our favorite hurricane hunter. What we're doing today, we are talking, well, the first half hour, we're really talking about the tropics. We want you to join us online, and the reason we're doing this is that so you can interact with us online.
Yeah, ask us how hot it's going to be, how long it's going to be hot where you're at, how long it's going to be until we get till fall, how long we're going to deal with all these storms as well.
Absolutely. So click on the QR code. That'll take you to your, and then choose your favorite social media platform. There you can join us. So let's bring in Josh Morgerman now. Again, as I mentioned, our favorite hurricane hunter. We've been doing this for quite a few years now, Josh. So let's just jump right on into it and talk about what's going on in the tropics.
Well, I think the best way to sum it up is mixed signals. You know, there are certain things, certain factors that are or indicators that are telling us, okay, stuff is really about to pick up, and then there's other factors that are just saying, well, not so fast. So it is really very mixed, and I think that the computer models are kind of suggesting that as well. That's what I'd say.
Well, and of course we have to go. Let's just talk about it. We have a 10% an area in the Gulf over the next several days. There's a 10% chance, which is again not a whole lot, of possibly forming. In fact, this looks kind of similar to what we were dealing with about a week ago.
Oh, like completely. You know, when I went on the Hurricane Center site yesterday, and I thought my browser was caching old images because when I saw that, you know, that X east of Florida, and then showing the arrow across, you know, showing that this thing's going to move into the Gulf, and there's that big hatched yellow area in the Gulf, it looks like a replay of Invest 93L, that little troublemaker from last week or the week before, I can't even remember, that caused the, you know, that kind of heavy rainfall on the northern Gulf Coast, never developed because it was too close to land. This looks like it could be a replay of that. It's like almost like we're just stuck in this pattern.
Well, and even though it didn't become something tropical in nature per se, it did cause flooding. And, you know, as we've been tracking it, that the remnants of that have been going around this great big area of high pressure, and we've been tracking the flooding for the whole week.
Yeah, for the whole month. It's kind of what it feels like at this point. It depends on where you're at. You get tropical downpours, you're gonna know about it. And this is kind of one of those things where it looks like that's gonna be the thing that we have to gear up for. Again, it's going to be basically in the same place, though, which is just weird meteorologically.
Well, now, also speaking about you know, climatology for this time of year, Josh, this really is not that unusual to have this kind of quiet moment as we get in from July going into August.
Absolutely. It's really interesting. Even in hurricane country, folks seem to forget that hurricane season generally does not really get going until August 10th. If you look at this sort of chart of Atlantic hurricane activity, typical activity, August 10th is when it really gets going. And July is typically kind of quiet. But for some reason, folks always think, oh, yeah, July should be active. It's often not. And an interesting stat, I was just looking through the record books, last 50 years, only one major hurricane has hit the U.S. before August 10th. That was Dennis in 2005. But generally, the big, intense hurricanes hit the U.S. after August 10th. So just want to kind of point that out. So climatologically, things actually are fairly normal right now.
So let's talk about what we are looking for to see those changes come. You know, one of the things I've been watching very carefully is the big area, the Bermuda High, that is not necessarily over Bermuda sometimes, and watching that because that can be the driving force to push things towards the U.S. Josh, what are you looking for? What are you looking at?
Well, one interesting thing is, you know, a lot of meteorologists have been noting in the last week is the MDR, the main development region. It's this area of the Atlantic between the Caribbean and Africa, and it's where storms in August start to form. That area has warmed up significantly in recent weeks. It was actually abnormally cool because of abnormally strong trade winds. Those winds have died down a little, and that has allowed that water to warm. That is an important factor as well.
Yeah, and we know that will just continue to get warmer. In fact, one of the things that's interesting to me is the fact that we don't have any systems out there. We're not seeing the churning and the turning over of the water. So over time, that temperature gradient is going down further in depth, which also will create more energy per se once the conditions in the atmosphere become a little bit more favorable. And I believe that Kevin also has a question for you this morning too.
Yeah, you know, what we're talking about is kind of the correlation between INSO neutral and kind of what we're expecting going into the next couple of weeks. I was just kind of curious how you think this almost nebulous El Nino, La Nina neutral phase that we're in, how do you think that's going to help with, you know, the wind shear and all that over the next couple of months?
Yeah, really mixed signals with the Enzo, right? We thought we were going to have a La Nina season. Now it looks like it's going to be more neutral. Listen, unless it's a strong El Nino, I always just, especially right now, we're in like sort of what I call a busy multi-decadal phase. We're obviously starting around 2017. The Atlantic has just clicked into this super busy sort of like general phase. In my opinion, unless the Enzo is like, unless we're like deep in like a strong El Nino where we're
You know what? I think that he was just about to say something incorrect, and the weather gods decided to say, "Josh,
yanked the
we're
cord.
gonna put you on a little bit
we should have
of a
plenty of
break."
activity.
You know, it is interesting though, and I totally agree that as we watch these conditions, Josh, you froze for a second, but I think that you're back. We have about 30 seconds before we're going to break here. So maybe just wrap up quickly what you were saying about the development that we see happening, especially in the Atlantic and into the Caribbean.
I just think that with an Enzo neutral with no El Nino or La Nina, I think it means we're in a healthy phase for hurricane activity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're absolutely not done yet. Okay, if you want to stay on the conversation with us, click on our QR code here, get on your favorite social media platform, join us there where we will answer your questions and interact and have some more fun. But for our TV viewers, we'll be back in just a few more minutes. Stay with us on Weather Nation.
All right, we are back on social media here, hanging out on whatever platform's your favorite. Instagram, X,
There's
Facebook.
so many platforms now, it's almost confusing to me because I don't even try.
TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. But we love it. We love to have
Yeah.
that interaction with you. So if you do have a question or even a comment, I mean, please, we love to hear it.
Yeah, smart aleck or not, if it's a comment, it's a comment. We'll filter it. Maybe,
Well,
or we'll pass it along, kind of playing the point guard here.
We are definitely three smart Alex. I mean, Kevin, me, and Josh, all three of us. It is just a little. It's interesting. So we have a Hawaii question.
Yeah, we were looking at this Eastern Pacific little wave there. That's a 20%, and it's in the vicinity of Hawaii. I didn't know if you'd ever been to any of the Hawaiian Islands hunting one of these hurricanes.
Okay, great question, and I have a very unpopular answer, which Hawaiians are not going to like.
He doesn't
But
like Hawaiian storms.
Hawaii is really not hurricane country. I know it looks
Right.
like it is, right? Because it is in the tropics and it has palm trees and it has like a hurricaney look. It really doesn't get hurricanes. Now, there have been a couple of fluke incidents. There was Hurricane Iniki in 1992, Category 4 that smashed Kauai, a real fluke event, a very big event, very impactful. And then there was Hurricane Eva in 1982, which brushed the outer islands. And then there was one called Dot in 1959, a Category 1 that brushed the outer islands. That's it. In over a century, Hawaii's gotten 2 Category 1s and a Category 4. Stuff generally just falls apart as it nears Hawaii. It's very, very, very unusual to get a true hurricane impact in Hawaii, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The upper air patterns, the water temperature gradients. There's all kinds of things that make stuff fall apart. And just to end this, yes, I did go there once. I was shooting a TV show, and the producers insisted that I go there because Hurricane Lane was nearby. I told them it was a waste of time. They wouldn't listen to me. I went there because they made me, and it was a waste of time.
No, there is no such thing as a waste of time when you go to Hawaii. All right, I'm telling you right now.
That's fair.
Yeah, and then also the fact that Josh is saying that Hawaii is not a hurricane-prone area, like that's a bad thing. I'm like, that's why it's at the top of my list of where I want to go.
That's why we're here in Denver.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's change gears for a second. We do have weather that's going on here in the United States that we want to talk about. So Tracy Anthony, our meteorologist in our West Palm Beach studios, she's got the latest with what's going on with the country. So Tracy, what are the headlines right now? What are you looking at?
Guys, it's all kind of connected around that ridge of high pressure across the south central U.S. So it's the storms going around it and then the heat underneath it. So we've got a few big headlines, but the humidity is just gross out there.
Oh, it's been a little humid here a couple of mornings, and
Yeah.
looked at the dew point
Well,
yesterday. It was 50.
Yeah, in Denver, dew point of 50, we were just dying. Okay, we were just
That's
suffering.
beautiful. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah.
Your
I
dew
know we're
point's-
soft.
Her dew point's what, 78, 79?
Constantly.
Yeah.
In the
steady.
winter.
Yeah, this time of year it's disgusting. You don't even have to look. It just doesn't feel good when you step outside. It's instant sweat. But
Well, it's good for
let's
your
br-
skin, though. It's good for your skin. So,
Yes.
you look a lot better than we do.
Something.
Yeah.
I do notice that when I come out to headquarters out there. It just like sucks all the moisture right out of you.
Fair enough.
Well, tell us what you
Important
got.
to moisturize.
Yeah, let's see what the forecast is showing you.
Yeah, so this ridge of high pressure is this dome, how we describe it. And underneath it, it is hot, it's humid, it's pretty uncomfortable. And we have heat advisories in effect for a lot of people. Now, the airflow around this ridge goes clockwise. So we're pumping in Gulf moisture and it's wrapping around this ridge. We even have a low out across the west that's even pumping in some Pacific moisture to the Four Corners. So that's what's going to help fuel the storms then. And we call these storms ridge riders as they ride around that high pressure center. So we're going to get a good amount of rain and moisture being wrung out across the north central. And over the next couple of days, we're going to track that severe weather threat as it does go around the top of that dome and push out into the northeast. But let's talk about the heat first. Over 96 million people under heat advisories and extreme heat warnings. So this is for that heat index value. So yes, the temperatures are a little warmer than average for this time of year, but why we're feeling this is because there's a ton of moisture content. It's very tropical air that's in place. So as the dew points get into the 70s, it feels a lot warmer and it's very hard for your body to keep cool. So take a look at these dew points. St. Louis, 77 degree dew points. This is extremely oppressive, and temperatures so far just starting to warm up for the day, but we have areas like St. Louis that already feel like 93 degrees. So it is hot, sticky, and very uncomfortable out there. And this is going to help fuel the storms that are going around that ridge. So heat index values, St. Louis going to be at 116 degrees by this afternoon. So really just be mindful, check on your neighbors. These are temperatures where it's going to impact everybody, not just sensitive groups. So very tropical. And speaking of tropical, we do have Josh Morgerman here. And, Josh, is there anywhere across the globe where it is the most active for the end of the month of July?
That's a great question because typically by now stuff is starting to pick up. Looks like the Western Pacific where typhoons happen, that seems to be the area where stuff is really kind of getting going right now. There's a lot of systems, nothing super well organized, but they are having actually named storms one after the other, although there's been no really single intense storm yet to grab the headlines.
That was a great question.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tracy. We're going to continue to send you good vibes of cooler weather to come towards
Yes,
you.
Drier weather.
And maybe drier. Well, you'll take anything you can get. But thank you very much for that update. All right, now I do believe that our social media platforms are starting to get a little more active. We got some questions
A little busy.
here. A couple of questions for Josh.
Yeah, the appropriate ones that we filtered through. Talking about the MJO enhancement and what's coming around the corner and what that could mean for the Atlantic Basin. Josh, I'm interested on your thoughts here as we get into the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a great question. The MJO, and just to sort of really like break it down for the non-weather nerds, it's just sort of like it's a sort of a it's a pattern that kind of it goes around the globe, and it basically decides whether the air is in a particular area is sinking or rising. When air is sinking, it means it's more stable and you're not going to get hurricanes. When it's rising, it's unstable. It means that there will be hurricanes. And the MJO phase is going to become more favorable over the Atlantic in the next couple of weeks as we climatologically get into the part of the year when we expect stuff to really start happening in early August. So just between the climatological phase, early August, when things should get going generally, and the MJO phase shifting, it means we should see a big uptick in activity, I believe.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. That was, again, from Casper Gregory. He was on Facebook. Got another one for you from Pest Hunter Outdoors on YouTube. How does the hurricane season and the monsoon season correlate as we get into the next month or two?
I'm going to let that's more of a Dr. Jim question, so I'm going to let Dr. Jim. Sorry.
No, I love that question. I love that question because people ask, actually, that's a very normal question. If you live out in Arizona, Utah, parts of Texas, sometimes California, the monsoon flow is the moisture that comes in. It's a moisture-bearing wind. It's a change in the wind direction, happens in the summer, pulls in moisture typically from the Gulf, sometimes also from the Pacific. So how does hurricane season and monsoon season go together? Well, the more tropical things are, the more tropical moisture available for the monsoon, the more tropical moisture available for the hurricane. So the problem is, or if there is a problem, is that it's always tropical in nature in the Gulf this time of year, and even on the Pacific side too, somewhat, but it's not quite as much. The Gulf is just a churning machine of moisture. So the actual hurricane season itself does not, the hurricanes or the tropical storms themselves on an individual basis will influence the monsoon, like the remnants coming on shore. That happens a lot from the Pacific, Eastern Pacific storms that will produce a lot of rainfall into Arizona, sometimes New Mexico. So there's definitely a relationship, but it's definitely a long distance relationship that is very far. And every now and again you get a phone call from the tropics telling the monsoons, here we come, and then it gets quiet again. But how was that, Josh?
I think it was very good, and I appreciated that the way you tied in the Eastern Pacific storms and that kind of moisture and thunderstorm activity in the desert Southwest of the United States.
Well, because everything's related. I mean, even what we're seeing now in what's happening locally. I mean, we have worldwide wind patterns and tropical moisture and cycles. It's all related, and so that's where I'm more of a system kind of a guy. I love to look at the whole system, and so there's definitely a relationship with those things.
Yeah, the synoptic meteorology of all this. I mean, this ridge that's affecting all of us now, it is literally reaching just about coast to coast here in some form or fashion. Just kind of depends on which side you're on.
Well, and high pressure does not necessarily mean quiet weather, because high pressure, we've got these storms that are riding around the high. So it's actually causing, it's a reason why we're seeing the big storms, but it's also the same reason why we have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings, where in the middle, that compressional heating is just squeezing out every little drop of moisture in the atmosphere. Yeah,
we get these things during the wintertime, and we're talking brutal cold as well. So it controls a lot of things. It's a big player in the big weather market.
Well, and if you look at cycles, typically in North America, our cycles are about every 10 days to 2 weeks, we kind of turn over a cycle. And Josh, tropically speaking, we also work with cycles. We got about 1 minute and 20 seconds left before we go to break.
Well, 100%. And I think it goes back to that sort of MJO phase that we talked about. And, in terms of, you made such a good point, both of you, about how, it's like the planet is one big organism and everything that's happening is interrelated. Right now, they're actually having a lot of tropical cyclone activity in the Western Pacific. They are having typhoons and stuff. And typically when they're busy, we're a little slower over here in the Atlantic. That's actually typical. It's almost like the hot spot kind of shifts and moves over. In a couple weeks, it's going to be us. We're going to be busy, and they're going to be slow, because it is all interrelated.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I watch the cycles. I'm watching for things, especially for the Atlantic basin now. I'm looking for something that will change the cycle, and it's just a matter of time before we'll see that. Okay, we're going to be back on live onto television, so if you again want to just stay with us here on social media, please do. Please ask your questions if you'd like to. Click on the QR code. That'll take you where you want to go. And we're going to continue on with Josh here in the next segment.
Yeah, and let us know where you're from. That helps us out to, kind of fine-tune and customize some of these answers.
We would even be able to give you a shout-out. Just the fact that you're interacting with us, we'd love it. Okay, we'll be back in just a few seconds. Welcome to Weather Nation. We've got our Hurricane Hub going on today. I'm Dr. Jim Siebert, Kevin Schneider here, meteorologist, also working the desk. We're working with our social media platforms for the next hour. If you want to interact with us, we'd love to have your questions. Click on this QR code, pick your favorite social media platform, join us. And joining us also right now is Josh Morgerman, our favorite hurricane hunter. And Josh, we've been answering questions about why things have been slow recently in the tropics, but also the question that I think we should talk again with our television side as well is what we think is going to be happening in the next coming 10 days to 2 weeks.
Well, I think the big thing, the overarching thing is just climatology says it's gonna pick up. Folks always expect July to be busy, but if you look at the sort of the chart of typical Atlantic hurricane activity, it's actually usually pretty slow until around August 10th, and then it goes just like it just goes straight up, and that's when we expect a lot of activity. So just for climatological reasons alone, I expect things are really going to uptick in the next 2 weeks.
One question that we get almost constantly is who should remain vigilant in watching for these systems in the United States?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, and the answer is, of course, everybody.
I agree.
You just never. It's a trick question. I knew you were trying to. You wanted me to name specific states, but I'm not going to fall into that trap. It's everybody because we just never know when things are going to spin up, and sometimes we can have spin ups close to the coast. Now, we worried about that a couple of weeks ago with that Invest 93L, that disturbance that crossed Florida, went into the Gulf. We all thought it was going to develop. It didn't. It was a big weather maker. Now we've got this other one, another area that the National Hurricane Center is watching, another kind of potential area in the Gulf. Those spin-ups can be particularly tricky because when they do happen, they're very close to the coast. I'm thinking back to Hurricane Alicia of 1983, developed from a stalled front in the northern Gulf right off of Louisiana, and that thing became a major hurricane that moved right into the Houston metro area in a couple of days with very little room to develop. It just happened. Not saying that's going to happen with this one, but that homegrown stuff very close to the coast can get dangerous if it gets going that close to shore.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the kinds of things that we do need to keep our eye on because things will change.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit of what's happening right now with our weather.
Yeah, gotta do it. Gotta keep all eyes on that active weather here, not just what's going to be happening over this week. I want to bring in Tracy Anthony to check in on Viper radar. Looks like we've got a new watch behind you.
Yeah, we've got a new watch, and things have really gotten aggressive just in the last hour or so. We went from one severe thunderstorm warning to a handful of them, and we do have a destructive severe thunderstorm warning across South Dakota. So this is those storms that are riding around that ridge, as the guys have been talking about. But across South Dakota right now, we have a handful of storms. You can kind of see they're moving from south to north, but then as they get just close to Redfield, that's when they start to have that easterly component. But these storms, if I put it to the nearest timestamp, they have that destructive tag. So these are warned because they've had winds clocked at 80 miles per hour. So this is definitely going to be a line of thunderstorms that does cause damage. We could have some hail potential. The hail reports have been a little bit smaller, but nonetheless a destructive severe thunderstorm as it lifts to the north, just going to clip Pierre, South Dakota, just at that western edge. Now, Aberdeen, you are expected to be hit with some storms over the next couple of hours or so because these storms are training and impacting the same cities and dumping a ton of moisture. So we have a ton of moisture available in the atmosphere, and these storms are tapping into it. So we're having rainfall rates of 1 to 3 inches per hour, and that's pretty abnormal here for areas like northern Minnesota. But we also have some flash flood warnings that have been issued, areas like Bemidji, Minnesota, under some flash flood warnings. So very aggressive storms on the high side of this ridge, you guys. And like Kevin mentioned, it's really impacting a lot of us pretty much from coast to coast.
Boy, yeah, absolutely. So we are going to continue to see some of those active storms. Thanks, Tracy. We appreciate the update. Coming up in our next block on social media, we're going to be talking about corn sweat.
Sweaty
which is
corn,
One of
huh?
my favorite topics. So if you'd like to join us for that, again, that's going to be on our social media platforms. Click on the QR code and go right to that. We have a question for Josh. We've got about a minute 30 before we have to go to break.
Yeah, this kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier. Joe from Tallahassee on Rumble. He just moved to Tallahassee, Josh.
Oh,
Does
bless your
he
heart.
really need to stay vigilant for things coming our way?
I'm going to have to. I think we lost Josh for just a second again. Okay, so 1st
Let's
of
guess
all,
what he would say.
I want to welcome you to Tallahassee. I want to welcome you to the humidity.
Oh,
and the
goodness,
answer is yes. Josh, would you agree with that?
If you could repeat the question.
The
there's a
question
little
was,
bit of-
we have a friend that's now just moved to Tallahassee, Florida, wants to know if he has to remain vigilant in Tallahassee. Are we serious about that?
Absolutely, because Tallahassee, okay, not a coastal city, but it's in the Florida Panhandle, meaning it's very close to the coast. And a lot of strong hurricanes have hit the Panhandle and then gone inland and really hit places like Tallahassee very hard. I consider Tallahassee, well, the entire state of Florida, no part of it is that far from the coast. So it's all hurricane country. And yes, you should be vigilant.
Well, and I also think with this invest that we're watching, that may or may not become anything in the Gulf, but
Yeah.
what it is going to do is cause a lot of heavy rainfall in Tallahassee. You're going to get onto that no matter what. Okay, we're going to be jumping back over to our social media side here as we go to a break. If you'd like to join us on social media, click on our QR code, go to your favorite social media platform, join us there where you can continue the conversation. Okay, we are continuing
Still
on
on it.
with our social media stuff. Okay, so Dr. Jim, Kevin here, Josh is here as well. Do we have any more questions that we have for Josh?
they are flying in.
They're flying in now. Okay, let's do some rapid succession questions for Josh.
I got a question, Josh, for you from Casper Gregory on Facebook again. Says he's going to be attending AMS and just found out that somebody's going to be there with him, huh?
I'm not sure which event he means, but because there's a lot of AMS events, but I do make an appearance at those things when I can. Off season usually, because I don't want them to conflict with the hurricane hunting season, let's say.
Yeah, he said he's excited to be at your AMS presentation that he's going to be attending. AMS is the American Meteorological Society. For all those folks that I probably just whipped that right by.
Yeah, well, basically it's professional weather geeks, and we all get together. There's thousands upon thousands of us, and we talk about the weather. And of course, we love to hear from Josh, because Josh, you always have great stories.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I mean AMS is great. It's total nerd fest. It's great for those of us who just live and breathe the weather. But other folks can join in too. It's a good time.
Yeah, or not, because it is a bunch of weather geeks talking about the weather.
You get stuck in conversations there, I could imagine.
Do we have more questions for Josh?
Yeah, we've got
let's
got
hit
another
him.
one from Sam_loves_trucks on Instagram.
Well, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Who among us? Is Atlanta going to see any hurricane impacts this year?
I'm sorry, where?
Is Atlanta
Georgia.
going to see any impacts?
Yeah, Atlanta can often get inland impacts, especially from stuff hitting the sort of Florida Panhandle and Big Bend region. We've had a lot of activity, a lot of hurricane activity in that part of the Gulf the last couple of years. So Atlanta, of course, has been having hurricanes in their sort of weather discussions the last couple of years. I think that anyone in the state of Georgia should be aware. It only has a small coast, but a lot of inland Georgia can't see impacts.
And I would add to that is also the fact that Georgia, if you have anything that comes in around the Gulf and then slides around, you're going to get hit by the remnants. And so you're in one of those positions where you might not get, and especially in Atlanta. I mean, the hurricane's going to make landfall, long before it gets to you, but it can still cause a lot of issues for those areas. In fact, I will go out on a limb right now and say, anywhere on a U.S. coastline at this point still has the possibility of something happening. We can't eliminate any place at this point anyway, but at the same time, we can't say it's going to happen here, or here.
Right. I remember Michael knocked down a bunch of trees in southern Georgia, even as it was carrying inland.
Yeah, so
Years ago.
we're still at that point. Wouldn't you say that, Josh?
Yeah, Michael's one of the best examples of the inland impacts that a hurricane hitting Florida can bring to Georgia. Michael was actually still a full-on strong hurricane when it crossed out of Florida into Georgia. That was an actual hurricane impact for Georgia. And folks in southern Georgia who went through the core of that, remember, that was a really, really big impact. And then, of course, Helene last year brought some very serious wind impacts into Georgia. So absolutely, especially stuff hitting the panhandle. And then I should also point out one other thing is that the coast of Georgia, although it hasn't had a direct hurricane impact in a long time, has in the past. The 1890s, we have to go back to the 1890s to talk about when coastal Georgia got hit multiple times by big destructive hurricanes.
Well, luckily we weren't around during that time to have to remember those things. I don't know how, Josh, you're a walking computer when it comes to tropical systems, which is why I love talking
That's
to you
always
so much.
amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I believe we still have more questions that are coming in, so let's hit them.
We got Lois from the UK. She says she just wants to give a shout out to Josh. New York City should pay attention if Josh is there.
Yeah, she's in the UK?
In the UK.
Okay, well, in that case, you're in the right place. I mean, you're in a good place not to have to worry about hurricanes, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but yeah, they do get those crazy remnants sometimes, that come in and give really big impacts. But yeah, no, Lois is one of our faithful viewers who enjoys watching like U.S. weather from the United Kingdom, probably because she knows we get such crazy weather here. The North American continent is one of the wildest in terms of weather. So folks from other parts of the world like to watch what's happening in North America. We get it all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The last question I've got, and this is for all of us here, from Robert Succi on X, what moves a hurricane in a certain direction? Is it the ocean currents, wind direction, or is it the Earth's rotation? Trivia question.
Go. You can start, and I'm going to finish it. Let's start there.
Well, it's sort of pushed. Hurricanes are pushed by the steering patterns, which are just sort of basically the winds in the atmosphere, which are dictated by where the highs are and where the lows are. And generally, hurricanes are low pressure systems, and they just kind of move between the high pressure systems. That's sort of a very boiled down description.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And what I say when I'm working with students is like, as the ocean flows, the wind blows. And so if you can track the ocean currents, you have a pretty good idea the winds are going to follow that same sort of pattern. And then the last caveat to all that, so as the ocean's flowing, the winds are following that. The highs and the lows are kind of the directional pushing or pulling on the system. And then again, when you get a system as big as a hurricane, the turning of the Earth, yeah, that is going to have an influence too. Now, a lot of times it's just like an airplane, where you think you're flying in a straight line, but then you pull the magazine out and you look at the magazine and they're all curved. There's no straight lines anywhere, and you're like, oh no, they're flying in straight lines. The Earth is turning while you're flying.
Yep.
And so also the answer to your question is all of the above. And so yes, all of these things are going to have an influence on those things as we look at it. Good question.
Yeah, great question. Really diving deep into that. And it has something to do too with the strength of the cyclone too, as to what level of winds we kind of look at as well. So it was a great question there. That's why I was saving it for the end. So
Josh, do you have any parting words as we're gonna say goodbye to you here in just a second? We're gonna move on to some other things. Anything you'd like to say to our folks that are watching us here on our social media platforms?
Yeah, just one thing is that a couple of recent hurricane seasons that we've had, I'm talking specifically 2022 and 2024, were heavily backloaded seasons, meaning they started really slow. Well, last year started big with Beryl, but then it was dead into September. Both those years, we basically had very little activity until around mid-September. Then things exploded. So what I want to say is even if we start slow in August, don't think that that's a harbinger of things to come. Might not be. It could be that it's just delaying the action again.
Yeah, we're not even at halftime in this game. So we still have a long way to go, and we'll continue to monitor that. Josh, thanks for spending some time again with us this morning. And I know we'll talk to you again probably very soon. But until then, be safe, be good. And I believe have a great time. I know you're in New York right now, so I'm just going to say, enjoy your time in New York and have some pizza for me, please.
Absolutely. I'll have 2 slices just
Heads up,
for
the
you.
heat's coming.
Oh, yeah, it's going to get hot there too, by the way. All right, thanks,
Good.
Josh. We'll talk to you real soon. Hey, let's switch gears now. We've been talking about flooding, especially in the eastern half of the country, but also out west. It's been a little more isolated. But the flooding and the heat has also been big stories for the last several days.
Yeah, and they all kind of have a little bit to do with each other. It's all tied together, right? We were talking about the ocean currents driving the winds. Well, you know, all this hot weather is driving severe chances as well as flooding chances.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about corn sweat because that's where people get into it.
It's this time of year, I think of baseball and I think of corn all at the same
Sweaty.
time. So here's the Field of Dreams in Iowa, which is of course surrounded by a cornfield, as we all know. And as we teased this earlier, Tracy, that we were going to talk about corn sweat as opposed to other types of sweat, without
sweat.
getting back sweat, for example. So let's hear it. Let's talk about corn sweat.
You know, corn sweat is definitely a cool sciencey topic, and we have 96 million people under some type of heat advisory or extreme heat warning for the day today. But there are certain areas where this is enhanced because of the corn. So want to break down kind of what happens with that setup. So as Jim was mentioning, Iowa is mainly covered in corn. It's actually a third of the state is corn fields. So they have a ton of corn, and the corn crop takes moisture from the soil and then it transpires it through leaves and its pores in its leaves. And so that it's kind of like sweating. So the corn crop is essentially sweating through its leaves, and that moisture then gets absorbed into the environment, or it evaporates into the environment. So it actually increases the humidity and can raise the dew point and can raise that heat index value quite a bit. So this time of year, July and August, is when the crop is, starting to get to that mature stage, and that's when it can release a majority of the water. And so when you have widespread cornfields, it can impact those areas and those microclimates. So, it can cause more moisture to be wrung out by storms. It can cause more instability. It just kind of depends. But kind of a cool concept that corn sweating through their leaves and the moisture they get from the soil can actually impact our weather. So, I didn't know that Iowa was a third cornfields. It's kind of crazy to me, you guys.
Well, on a similar note, that Iowa is also the sweatiest place in the country right now. Has nothing to do with the corn. Just the fact
in
that
general,
it's really, really hot. Tracy, I have to admit, before we really got into the science of this, I thought when someone said corn sweat, it's because I was eating so much corn that I started sweating. You ever done that where you eat so much
process of digesting,
and you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, that's what I thought corn sweat was.
I don't think I've had that with corn. I mean, I've had like the meat sweats.
There you go. Yeah.
You mean like steak?
That's what everyone thinks of, right?
Okay.
Hey, we've got a comment on the topic there from looks like Cal 67746, if my eyes are not deceiving me. So hot the cows are producing evaporated milk. That leads us into exactly what we're going to be talking about coming back on TV here.
It's our favorite topic. We're going to move away from corn sweat, and we're just going to talk about sweat. Where is it sweaty? Where are people, just oppressively hot right now, right, Tracy?
You guys can't even talk. You only have dew points, right around 50 degrees?
Hey.
I deal with it all the time. Everyone
I got plenty
in the
of back
office
sweat
is
right
even
now, though,
sweating.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? But we live in Colorado for a reason, okay? My house is at 7,000 feet. Okay, I lived in Houston for many, many years. Most of my career in Houston.
That makes sense.
And when my wife and I were done, we're like, we're going to the mountains. We needed a change.
Getting up in elevation.
All right, guys, we are going to be back live on television again, and we keep the conversation going, though. We'd love the comments, love the questions as well. So join us over here. We're going to be talking about, as we just told you, it's going to be hot. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Weather Nation. I'm Dr. Jim Siebert. Kevin Schneider is here, and also Tracy Anthony is joining us. We've been talking in the last about half hour, mostly about tropics, but we're switching gears now. We're talking about where there's over 90 million people in the U.S. who are dealing with some type of heat advisory or heat warning. It is hot.
Yeah, summertime staple, right? Talking tropics, talking maybe some clusters of storms, but it's mostly about the heat.
Yeah, and we have people are sending in some comments already, and I love these comments because you know when you're really hot, when you want to talk about it, you're going to feel passion. You have passion about what you're discussing, and here we go.
Yeah, at Jimerson Young 1 on X, it's so hot people are going to auction sites and bidding on shade. I'd pay a pretty penny. I was out doing a hike over this past weekend, realized we forgot the sunscreen.
Oh,
You could have had me there. I'd have paid a lot of money for some shade then.
You know what? Honestly, I did that earlier just a couple of weeks ago. I forgot. Again, we're meteorologists, right? You think that we would be good at this?
Oh yeah.
I forgot the sunscreen, and I burnt the holy out of my face, even my feet. In fact, my skin is still peeling on my feet.
Oh, that's a great visual. Great visual. Hope you weren't eating breakfast this morning. It's one of those things. Got another one out there from at Utah WX, so we know it's a weather nerd out there. It's a well done steak out here in Utah. I could imagine that.
Well, now that's bringing in meat sweats as well as just the regular sweats. So I like where your head is at because honestly, I'm more of an ice cream guy. I'll be honest during this time of year.
Okay.
Trying to cool down, but good steak's a good steak.
Yeah, are we still doing ice cream trucks nowadays?
Oh yeah.
It's been years since I've seen a big one.
In Texas, where I was just a couple weeks ago on the beaches, they're constant back and
Zipping
forth.
up and down.
We're in Colorado, so in the Denver area, I don't think I've ever seen one.
Maybe it's soon. Maybe we got a little business opportunity, a little WeatherNation popsicles truck slinging operation. I don't know. We'll have to run through the legalities of all that, but we'll get into it here as we go forward. But yeah, it's hot. Any way you want to talk about it.
Well, let's maybe change gears just a little bit. So yeah, we've got the heat. Oh wait, we have another comment. We have to get to this one. Okay.
From at Alex Libby WX, also another weather nerd. That's the dead giveaway there. Here in Tennessee, I call it soup because of how humid it is. Yeah, I've heard soupy.
Oh, you know
what?
It's true. Like I was just mentioning how my wife and we spent most of my career in Houston, one of the most humid places on the planet. And so I can absolutely relate to that. And another person who I know can relate to that is Tracy Anthony, who is in our West
She doesn't want to hear about any of this.
Studio. So Tracy, does it feel like soup where you're at?
You know what? When I first moved down here, the first summer, I'm originally from Minnesota, lived in Denver for a couple of years. When I first moved down to Florida and it hit June, July, and August, it dawned on me. I was like, this is why we never traveled to Florida in the summer.
No change.
I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I've been to, we travel to Florida. Of course, we go over spring break or in the summertime, and then you get to Disney World or one of those places, and you get outside and you're like, what were we thinking?
I've made a grave error.
We're supposed to come here in the wintertime when it's 70 degrees.
Oh yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that are dealing with it, but it's also dangerous though. I mean, we are kind of making light of it, but we are talking about dangerous heat for over 90 million people.
Yeah, you gotta stay safe some way, somehow, as we get into the dog days of summer out there, Tracy.
Yeah, it's really hard for your body to keep cool when there's so much moisture content in the air. Your sweat can't evaporate, kind of like corn sweat. But with heat index values, we're going to be in that danger zone. So 103 degrees to 124, this is when exhaustion or heat exhaustion is likely. Heat stroke possible. So anyone outside could have those impacts. Now, there's a few areas around the country where we have been a little cooler. San Fran, you're one of those. Look at throughout the month of July, a majority of the days, we've actually been below average. Now, this is because of a marine layer, or at least most recently, because of a marine layer that kind of tucks in along the coast and keeps us on the cooler side. But A few other areas like the Northeast, they had a big cool down here this week. Just look at the last 24 hours. This is max temperatures. A lot of areas stayed in the 70s for the day. And actually, we had some record low temperatures yesterday morning. And it was because this was a cold air mass that originated in the North Pole, and then swung down here across the Northeast. So areas like Watertown, New York, waking up yesterday with temperatures right around 46 degrees, and Saranac Lake, 34. So Jim, they were pretty close to that freezing point, a little too close for the month of July.
Yeah, I will say, once you get into the 30s, yeah, that's getting a little bit on the cool side for me as well. But yeah, isn't it interesting? One part of the country is super hot, other parts of the country have different weather. So you gotta be aware. Thanks, Tracy. We
It's always
appreciate
chaos.
that. Now we're going to be going over to in just 1 minute. We're going to be over only live on our social media platforms. This is why we would love for you. Click on our QR code. Join us on any one of our social media platforms where you can interact with us, because we're going to be talking about videos of the week and showing you those.
Yeah, not picky about which platform. You could have been watching the entire hour with us and wouldn't have to migrate back and forth here as we get into TV and off TV and back on and back off. But yeah, we'd have been with you the whole time. We're going to stay with you. But yeah, top weather videos from this week. I'm interested to see what we got.
And your chance to vent about your weather. I mean, whether it's too hot, it's too cold, it's what we want to hear, how you feel about the weather, because as professional weather geeks, that's what we do.
Lay it on us.
Join us on our social media platforms. We're going to be live on there in 6, 5, 4, just a few seconds. We'll see you soon. And just like that, we are still live with our friends here on social media. As we mentioned, we're going to get to those videos, so let's get to it. These are our videos of the week, and I hope that they either frighten you, and entertain you, or get a reaction out of you.
Or, at the very least, get ways to get weather warnings. That is what we're trying to push here, just nice and prepared. We'll start you out in Phoenix. Is back on the 21st, 2 days ago, someone landing down at, Sky Harbor there in Phoenix.
In Phoenix.
Looks fine, and all of a sudden, now you're in a haboob. Now what?
I'm pretty sure I don't want to land in a haboob.
I'm surprised. Airliners have trouble landing in fog. I'm interested to know kind of the procedure of landing in a dust storm like that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, okay, so haboobs, it's a dust storm. So it's caused typically in Arizona, especially, where you have a thunderstorm. It could be 100 miles away, and the strong winds coming out of the thunderstorm hit the ground, lots of dust, and then it travels. And it can travel for more than 100 miles.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's far enough away from the actual storm itself, you're just it's gonna be windy and kind of rough. But if you're really close to the thunderstorm, then that would be a problem trying to land the airplane then.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, how the conversation went between the pilots there. I'm sure it was maybe a little white knuckle there for a second.
Yeah, they're coming in. I see the airport. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Oh my goodness. Of course, I don't know. You got to be a little bit crazy. Okay, that was a good one. I'll grant it. That was a good one.
What's our next one? Is out in Hawaii. We take you to Kilauea, Hawaii. Oh, look at that. Is that a rainbow? You ever seen a rainbow produced by a volcano erupting?
Volcanic rainbow.
How about that? This is the eruption episode. I'm not even sure what number we're at this point. It's probably 456. I feel like we were close to 30 at one point.
Well, why not? Why not a rainbow? I mean, obviously, you can see we've got, the pyrocumulus that's coming out of there. So we can get clouds out of it. We have the gas. But, well, honestly, I don't really think that rainbow has anything to do with the volcano.
Maybe a fog bow kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's just the moisture. Of course, the sun has got to be behind where we're shooting from. But I don't know.
Funny how we can re-engineer these videos.
Or it's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is right there in the center of that volcano. So you got to go into the volcano to get the gold.
Would not suggest that.
It
goes without saying.
That's true.
Goes without saying. Don't jump into a volcano thinking you're going to get a pot of gold. But we get some of the coolest weather videos here, and that's kind of why we have these social media platforms to try to get some of those out to the public.
And we love to talk about it too. Why are they happening? What are we looking at? Now, what are we looking at here? This is from Minnesota.
We got near New Prague, Minnesota.
Are those mosquitoes?
Don't tell me that.
Or locusts?
If those are mosquitoes, those are big enough to carry you away. Huge mosquito cloud swarm with a terrible noise.
Oh my God, that is the sickest thing. And when I say sick, not in a good way. Okay, one, I don't really like bugs all that much.
Sure, nobody does.
If there's enough mosquitoes to make that noise.
What's going on? That almost sounds like, winds kicking up, some sort of that nasty storm kicking through, and no, just bugs.
Minnesota's known, the land of lakes, right? And so there's lakes everywhere if you've got bodies of water, and so, it gets really cold during the wintertime. So this is peak mosquito time.
Peak time, and with all that humidity, of course, I'm sure it is not looking great out there. You know who is an expert in Minnesota? Tracy Anthony.
She's also, I understand, an expert in mosquitoes, too. Is that true, Tracy?
How we getting to that?
Right? You go from Minnesota, where the mosquito is the state bird, and then I moved to Florida, where the mosquito is the state bird. It's the same thing.
Well, okay, I have a question for you. Do mosquitoes love you? Because, they're like my wife, she walks outside, she gets mosquitoes, they're sucking her blood. They don't like me for some reason. What about you, Tracy? Do they like you?
Yeah, I know it has to do with blood type. I'm kind of like in the middle. I do get bit every now and then, but my boyfriend Jeff, he gets swarmed when he goes outside. And he actually taught me that it depends on your blood type. They're attracted to, I think, O positive or something. I'd have to check. Don't quote me on that, but yes.
I'm going to go with more of if you're sweet or sour.
That's what everyone thinks, right?
Right?
Wrong.
So does that makes Tracy sour and your boyfriend sweet? Is that how that
I'm
works?
the sour one.
Of course, Kevin has
I
an
would
answer.
say he's the sour one, so that doesn't make sense.
Oh, well, there you go. Kevin, what about you?
I'm hit and miss, kind of like Tracy. Some years I've noticed it's a little worse. Since we moved out here, there's not a ton of mosquitoes.
I don't want to let.
Yeah, you guys don't have any.
Yeah, there's hardly any water on the ground in Colorado, and except for where up in the mountains. So there's no mosquitoes. I literally can leave the door open a lot
and not
because
pay
there's
the
no
price.
bugs. Now in Houston, you literally slip through the door, close it really fast because there's mosquitoes, cockroaches, bats. It's just a cornucopia of pests. Anyway, but honestly,
you get those little lizards. I named one Godzilla.
geckos.
I found him in the laundry room.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is now, but he's probably just chilling.
I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. But
He's
anyway,
eating
that
dog
video,
food or something.
That video kind of would freak me out. If I was at that location
That's
looking
plague
up
level.
and I'm seeing, it's time for me to go.
Yep, I'm out. Hard out.
Yep.
All
Don't
right.
do it.
I think we've talked about that to death. What else do you got? Give us the headlines real quick before we wrap things up.
There's still going to be some strong storms across areas of the north central. We're tracking some severe weather here this morning. We do have a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings across South Dakota, just south of Aberdeen and pushing through the city. But some of these have the destructive tag on it, meaning that those winds have been clocked at 80 miles per hour or stronger. So these thunderstorms will be destructive just on their own. So those are powerful winds. Don't wait for a tornado warning to, take things seriously. These winds are going to be destructive. We do have another severe thunderstorm warning across parts of Minnesota. That's St. Louis County. And we also do, it looks like that flash flood warning in Bemidji was lifted. So that's some good news. But we're talking rainfall rates of 1 to 3 inches per hour, which is very tropical. And you don't typically have rainfall rates that impressive here across the north central U.S. But we're also talking about heat across the central plains and that lemon that we're watching in the tropics.
There's always something to watch. Yeah. So thanks for that update, especially where those severe storms are, Tracy. I believe we're going to wrap things up here, but before we do, we have one more question.
I got one funny comment from Facebook.
Oh, a comment. Okay.
Youngblood Ranch on Facebook. It's so hot in Alabama that cows aren't getting out of the pond.
You know what?
I believe it.
Honestly, that's
smart.
I can't think of a better place to be either.
Big brain
you
move.
see it all the time, right? You see it all the time. It is hot. So
Yeah.
hey, find your way to stay cool out there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on especially since we're talking to you folks on our social media platforms. We love to hear from you, not just when we're on the air, but you can join us and send your comments just at any time, because we love to share those
Random
things.
thoughts.
Random thoughts are always good too. So we appreciate it. We had some fun talking with Josh today. Kevin and I had fun. Again, click on this. That's our where you can watch us on TV and social media. Everybody be safe, stay cool, and we'll talk to you soon.